Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested.
And it's Jeremy from Tested.
We're here at Oculus Connect, the third one, and one of the games that we're going to check out is a new game from Epic Games.
The Epic Games, Robo Recall, not Total Recall, Robo Recall.
Want to check it out, interview the developers, and come back and give you some impressions. Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested. I'm here at Oculus Connect 3, and one of the new titles announced is made by Epic Games. It's called Robo Recall, and I'm chatting with Epic's lead designer of VR, Nick. You're in charge of all of the VR initiatives at Epic, is that right?
Yeah, we don't have a huge amount of them going at the moment, but yeah, actually no, we do. But yeah, I've been involved in the VR editor, development of Bullet Train, all the previous demos that we've done here, and now Robo Recall.
Now you told me Bullet Train was kind of your pet project, you and a bunch of people, and it was showed last year. How did Bullet Train become Robo Recall?
Yeah, so when we first kind of came up with the idea for Bullet Train, it was a prototype of mine. I had some guns, I had some robots, and things just kind of started escalating from there. And then once we'd kind of wrapped up the Bullet Train as you know it, we just kind of kept pushing. We were like, what happens when we turn the dials up to 10, and then 11, and then 12, and then 13? You know, things start to get wacky, things start to get a bit ridiculous. And that's what we see now.
Yeah, the thing I think that Bullet Train showed was how satisfying it is with touch controllers, with hand presence, to hold things like shotguns and pistols. But something you're doing new in Robo Recall is free teleport, free locomotion. Can you talk about the development of that idea, not just using nodes that you're teleporting in?
Yeah, sure. Well, when we kind of first came up with the idea, we wanted to make sure that we gave the players as much creative expression in their ultimate destruction of robots as possible. And so we kind of came up with a couple of little prototypes for this. And after a few days, it became apparent that some of the really crazy things that we were doing were just needed to stay in the game. I'd kind of throw a gun at a robot and teleport behind him, and then just wait until he flipped over my head and I shot him straight out of the air. That kind of expression of movement is something that kind of became core to what this game is.
Because I guess with just pistols, if you're just reloading or firing, there's no discovery there. Right. So what are the kind of things you are building in, or are those things you'll write out beforehand, or are there things that will come up organically based on the physics models you guys are putting in?
We basically have what I call a what-if design development, which is, So to take advantage of the motion controllers and touch controllers, we really wanted to be able to bring things up close to you. Grabbing things feels really natural. And so we built convenient handles on the front of the robots, that you just happen to be able to grab. And then, the first thing that you do when you're holding a robot in front of you is like, well, what do you want to do with it? I want to punch its head in. What if I could tear its arm off? What am I going to do with it then? I'm going to beat him to death with it. And then, then I want to throw him up to the air and I throw that arm at him. So it's kind of this big spiraling circle of what if I can do this, what if I can do this? And we just kind of keep building the game to kind of behave that way.
It's almost like giving you superpowers. Yeah. Now, are there things in the game you designed so that they feel really like superpowers in terms of making a robot look heavy, but then you can easily tear it apart? So it infers the idea that you actually have super strength.
Yeah, so when it comes to being able to tear the robots apart, we took a lot of care and attention into the destruction of the robots. When you grab them, it comes instantly to your hand, and then as you tear, you start to hear the stretching and the pulling and the sparking, and then it detaches and there's cables, and you pull a little bit further and the whole thing pops off, and there's a lot of it's a very in-detailed way of being able to pull them apart, and it feels really good. It's satisfying, and it's like a weightiness to it.
The core gameplay, though, is gunplay. It's firing pistols. What's your philosophy in terms of designing guns to be satisfying? And because there are no laser sights on any of these.
Well, there are. There's actually a couple of enemies in there that you can steal their guns from them, and they've got laser sights on them. And we're talking about, we have a weapon upgrade system where you can unlock and purchase upgrades and laser sights, and there's actually a holographic sight that one of the robots has as well that behaves just like it would in the real world. It makes aiming, and that's kind of the beauty about having these kinds of things in VR is, typically in a game, having a holo sight just means you've got a little red dot on screen, but now it actually means that when you align the gun, you can actually see exactly where you're going to shoot. It feels completely different than in a normal game.
And I'm putting those sights up to my dominant eye, just naturally.
Exactly. Like this, yeah. And so, without any kind of sight, you have to really line it up like this, and then you've got your holo sight, and you can just kind of throw it, and as long as you see the dot on the target, it's going to hit. And then you've got your laser sights, which have a similar kind of vibe about them, but they behave a little bit differently and stuff like that. So the actual physicality of the way all this stuff works is a complete game changer.
What's the scope of the game? Is it going to be mostly this kind of horde mode, enemies coming at you? Is there going to be story driven? What can you say about
We
it?
have a handful of environments, and each of them has a few different missions inside of them. And those missions have different objectives and different things you're going to be doing inside of them. And so each of the missions is going to have kind of objective type things that you can accomplish, and it's actually going to be really hard to get all of them. And so you're going to have to come back and try to play it in a different way to achieve the right thing. So we're taking a very arcadey approach to this. Get higher scores and unlock higher multiplier unlocks, and then come back and get higher scores again. That kind of approach. Yeah.
And because it's a single player game, you can mess with time, you can slow things down. Have you guys thought of putting this in a multiplayer environment? Have you experimented with that?
It's something that we've thought about, but for the scope of the game that we're doing now, we thought, if we want to empower the player to the maximum potential, single player is the way to go for now, at least.
Awesome. Can't wait to play it. And this is going to be free for people who have...
Free in the first quarter of 2017, yeah.
Can't wait to play it. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, so what did you think about that, Jeremy?
Oh man, I gotta be honest with you, I was a little woozy after that experience. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. I mean, that is definitely like the most crazy game that we've played here. Don't you agree?
Well, I think that it's definitely the boldest with Locomotion.
Yes!
But within the boundaries, I think, of comfort. Now, Bullet Train, which is the shooting demo that Epic Games made last year, had a locomotion mechanic, which is teleporting between nodes. Mm-hmm. And even when you teleport between nodes in that, you could change the direction where you end up facing. Here, in Robo Recall, they're letting you teleport almost anywhere on the map.
On top of cars, on top of buildings, anywhere in front of you, next to enemies. And when you teleport, you choose which way you want to aim yourself.
Yeah. Now, the way you select your teleport location is with this parabolic arc, which I thought was, it's pretty much standard in VR games now.
I like it.
People get it. They get the idea of not exactly throwing a ball, but you have an arc that goes up in front of you, lands right there. It sets a fixed distance, so you're not going to teleport super far away and have jittery control. And then, like you said, you turn the stick to reorient yourself around the enemies.
Yeah. I can't really explain why I felt a little bit woozy after that, because there's no pushing through space, there's no forced movement at all. It's just very, very fast.
It's also you're focusing on a lot of stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a sense of urgency. There's always like bad guys coming at you and firing at you, and I want to just get out of there. So like I'm teleporting, I don't even know where, and then I'm looking around to try to get my bearings again. And there's a lot of things jumping up into your face. It's not like a scary game in that sense, but it's there's a lot of action.
I mean, the way the game is set up, these robots are running at you. You have challenges, you have to kill a certain number of them, almost like a horde mode style, with different type of robots up in the air, on the ground, crawling around. And it's style points. You have pistols that you pick up from your hips, your virtual hips, and you have shotguns you get from your back, or you can steal guns from enemies.
I like the style stuff. I like that when you shoot people or the bad guys, they throw up little cartoony, X3, X4, and like you laser somebody who's like lasered. It's very comic-y in that way.
Yeah, and it's really fluid, the action. So
very much.
I love being able to pick a gun up from the hip, shoot, run out of ammo, and as opposed to the reloading mechanic being putting a clip in or flipping out the mag and reloading and doing some action, you just drop the gun or throw it.
You can reload, right? Couldn't you put them back in the holster and then pull them back up?
No, they're new guns.
I know that they're new guns. I know that they teleport in new ones, but I think that there might be a reload method as well, but you chose just to drop them and grab new ones.
Them
I mean, why not?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a kind of, it can be unrealistic, but it's smooth, fun, and lets you choreograph this ballet of gunplay.
Yep.
And you can, if you run out of bullets, you get up close enemies, grab them, tear limbs off of them. You can possess other mechs. And I think they really want people to get creative with the way they're dispatching enemies. You can juggle them with bullets in the air, grab things from out of the air and throw them. Like things that they didn't tell us explicitly to do in the game, but they built in because they want people to discover things.
There's a lot of discovery, and I think it's going to be maybe a 3-hour experience. You said maybe 4 if you take it slow, but there's going to be some replayability in there because you can teleport anywhere. It's not like a linear game in that sense. I mean, you could try, you can see if you can get a better score by taking different vantage points. He also mentioned something about upgrades, like you will get a new scope or different attachments for your gun so you can go back and try again. And there'll, of course, be leaderboards and you try to beat your friend's scores.
And even though you're moving across a vast environment, you don't technically have to move or do more than just turn your body a little bit. You were playing it a little differently from
Oh
me.
my gosh, yeah, very much so. In fact, this is kind of interesting. Like the way that you aim yourself when you teleport, that arrow that it's pointing to is not relative to your body. It's relative to where the two sensors are, the two IR sensors, right? So you should play standing facing forward the whole time. Whereas since I was just crazy, just like get me out of here, I was teleporting and then spinning my body. Like I would just turn around 360 degrees. I got wrapped up in the cable once or twice. So it's now knowing that that arrow matters, like where those sensors are, I would certainly try to play differently. I would try to play more planted feet, face forward.
And it's also a single-player game, which I guess makes sense because they need to slow time down.
Yeah.
They need to have things relative, the action relative to you as a player. But I would love to see modes where you have indications of your friends' leaderboard rankings, something like a ghost of them in
That would be
the
cool.
game world,
Yeah.
or some audio cue or visual cue when you know you've got a special move that they haven't done yet. Something to connect you to the greater world.
Yeah, yeah. I like that they have the where you can grab the bullets out of the air and throw them back at your opponents. I think Super Hot is going to introduce the same mechanic. It's just a good one.
Yeah. And one last thing, in the end of the game, you possess a larger mech and you puppeteer it. You don't have
Right.
one-to-one control. They change the scale. You're a little higher above the ground, but once you're in a different body, like the actual feel of the control is different.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like one-to-one as you expect your avatar to be. Your avatar in the game like has now taken over a larger beast. And so when you move, the movements weren't one-to-one. They were like sluggishly behind it. And it feel like massive that way. It gave a better sense of scale to me. It was really kind of cool. And I'm grabbing bad guys and I'm throwing them into the air, lasering things all across. Definitely gives you a sense of power.
And definitely high production values for this type of game, which is
Yeah.
why I'm surprised that it's going to be free for
What?
people who have Oculus Touch coming out. They said Q1 in 2017.
Right. Yeah, not a bundle, like not at touch launch. Yeah, it's going to be nice to have touch when this thing comes out.
And we'll have that as well. We'll be playing a lot more of that when we get it in the office. But until then, find more of our coverage from Oculus Connect 3 on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us if you like our videos. And Jeremy and I will see you next time.